You open the hood, see the Toyota badge, and feel a quiet sense of trust. Toyota engines have a reputation: bulletproof, long-lasting, almost boring in how reliable they are. So when the owner's manual tells you exactly which oil to use, you don't question it. Why would you? But what if the oil Toyota is now asking you to pour into your engine is so thin that veteran mechanics are refusing to use it? What if the same engine, built with the same parts, is allowed to run oil 5 times thicker in other countries? And what if the real reason behind these oil recommendations has almost nothing to do with protecting your engine? That's where this story begins. Because somewhere between government regulations, fuel economy numbers, and modern marketing, Toyota oil recommendations quietly crossed into territory that has owners confused, mechanics divided, and forums on fire. And at the center of it all are 3 tiny characters that look harmless on paper but have huge consequences in real life. 0W8. When Toyota first introduced ultra-low viscosity oil, most people barely noticed. Years ago, 10W30 was normal. Then came 5W30. Then 0W20. Each step felt like progress. Better efficiency. Better cold starts. Better technology. But 0W8 is different. This isn't a small adjustment. This is a radical leap. At operating temperature, this oil is thinner than anything most engines have ever relied on for protection. Some mechanics describe it as barely thicker than water. Others refuse to install it altogether, even on brand new cars. And yet, Toyota dealerships are charging premium prices for it. In some cases, over $100 just for the oil itself. Not because it's made of liquid gold, but because it's rare, hard to source, and locked behind dealership supply chains. Here's the part that should immediately raise an eyebrow. The exact same Toyota engine, same displacement, same bearings, same internals, is approved to run dramatically thicker oil in other parts of the world. In Australia, some Toyota engines are officially allowed to use oils like 10W30 or even 15W40 depending on climate. That's not a small difference. That's a canyon. So the obvious question becomes unavoidable. If thicker oil is supposedly dangerous for modern Toyota engines, why is it perfectly acceptable everywhere else? To answer that, we have to step away from the garage for a moment and step into a boardroom. Because the real pressure behind ultra-thin oil doesn't come from engine wear, it comes from regulations. Specifically, fuel economy regulations. In the United States, manufacturers are bound by strict corporate average fuel economy standards. Miss the target, and the fines are brutal. We're not talking about small penalties. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars across a lineup. And here's the trick most consumers never see. Switching from one oil viscosity to another, even by a tiny amount, can slightly reduce internal friction. That reduction translates into a microscopic gain in fuel economy. Maybe less than 1 mile per gallon. Sometimes far less. On one car, that gain is meaningless. Across millions of vehicles, it becomes a lifeline. That's why ultra-thin oils were first developed in Japan, where emissions and CO2 targets are even stricter. And once they worked on paper, they spread globally, especially to markets with aggressive testing standards. Your engine didn't suddenly become fragile. The testing rules just became unforgiving. Now, Toyota will tell you that these oils are safe because modern engines have tighter tolerances. That's where the conversation gets slippery. Yes, modern engines are more precise. But when you look at actual bearing clearances, the microscopic gaps oil must protect, those numbers haven't changed nearly as much as the marketing suggests. Many Toyota engines today run clearances very similar to engines from 20 years ago that lived happily on much thicker oil. So how does 0W8 survive? It doesn't rely on thickness. It relies on chemistry. This is where things get fascinating and a little unsettling. Ultra-low viscosity oils are packed with advanced additive packages, friction modifiers, film-forming compounds, detergents that operate at a molecular level. These additives create a temporary protective layer when metal surfaces get dangerously close. In controlled conditions, with fresh oil and perfect maintenance, it works. That's how these oils pass certification tests. But additives don't last forever. They degrade with heat. They break down with fuel contamination. And in modern direct injection engines, fuel dilution is unavoidable. Gasoline sneaks past piston rings, mixes with oil, and thins it even further. Now imagine an oil that already starts life razor thin, and then gets diluted. Toyota doesn't publish long-term data showing how these oils behave at 8 or 9,000 miles in real-world driving. Especially in short-trip conditions. Especially in hot climates. Especially in traffic. That silence is where concern lives. Hybrid vehicles make this even more complicated. Hybrid engines shut off constantly. At traffic lights. In slow traffic. During coasting. Each restart forces oil to re-establish protection instantly. Ultra-thin oil flows fast, which is great during cold starts, but once hot, it also means lower oil pressure. And while Toyota emphasizes startup protection, many experienced technicians worry about long-term wear under sustained load. Highway driving, hills, towing, heat. The thinner the oil, the smaller the margin for error. Now let's talk about something Toyota never mentions loudly. Oil change intervals. 10,000 miles sounds modern, convenient, efficient. But ultra-thin oils depend heavily on their additive packages. And those additives don't care about your maintenance reminder. They care about heat cycles, contamination, and time. Independent oil analyses from owners running long intervals on ultra-low viscosity oils often show elevated fuel dilution and wear metals, especially in cars that do frequent short trips. That's why many veteran mechanics quietly ignore the extended intervals and recommend 5,000-mile changes instead. Not because the oil wears out, but because its chemistry collapses long before the mileage does. And here's where real-world evidence steps in and destroys the narrative. Fleet vehicles. Taxis. High-mileage commercial Toyotas. In multiple fleets around the world, engines specified for thinner oil have been run on thicker alternatives for hundreds of thousands of miles, with minimal wear and no oil consumption issues. These vehicles live brutal lives. Constant idling. Heat. Load. Stop-and-go driving. If thicker oil was truly dangerous, those engines would have failed early. They didn't. Because the truth is, Toyota engines are robust. They always have been. And they can tolerate a wide range of oil viscosities depending on operating conditions. So why does Toyota push one ultra-thin option so aggressively in certain markets? Because fuel economy numbers sell cars. They earn credits. They avoid fines. And they look great on a window sticker. Your long-term ownership goals aren't part of that equation. Now, let's address the fear that stops most owners from questioning anything: warranty. Dealerships love to imply that deviating from the exact oil recommendation will void your warranty instantly. In reality, consumer protection laws make that incredibly difficult to enforce. Manufacturers must prove that the oil you used directly caused the failure. That's a high bar. As long as the oil meets the required specifications and certifications, many owners legally protect themselves, even when choosing alternative viscosities within reason. So what's the real-world answer? If you lease your Toyota or plan to trade it before high mileage, using the specified ultra-thin oil will likely get you through ownership without drama. Follow the schedule. Use certified oil. Change it on time or earlier. But if you're the kind of owner who buys a Toyota to keep it for decades, to cross 200,000 miles and beyond, the strategy changes. Many experienced owners choose a slightly thicker oil as a compromise. They shorten oil change intervals. They prioritize consistency over marketing promises. And they focus on long-term protection rather than fractional fuel economy gains. Because once the warranty ends, the engine is yours, and so are the consequences. Toyota isn't lying to you. But they're not telling you the full story either. Now you know what's behind the numbers. The chemistry. The regulations. The trade-offs. So tell me, what oil does your Toyota run? And which country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. If this video helped you see car maintenance differently, hit like, share it with another Toyota owner who trusts the manual without question, and subscribe for more deep, real-world car care insights that go beyond the surface.